Hello. Well, I'm still upside down again. No, I didn't stay all night upside down. But I found out my son said I should post it in landscape. I thought maybe the shorts would get posted in vertical. So anyway, I hope my landscape is better today. I think it's running. I hope so. Oh, but it feels so good to do traction. Oh, this is what it comes to. If you destroy your spine, you end up having to do, things later on in life, like traction, to try to put the fluids back into the disc. But if you remember, I told you that some of the traction back in college caused the problems, and that's where you have to be careful. It's one of my pet peeves is if you have a ruptured disc or a herniating disc in your back, and they tell you have hernia, and then you do traction, either at the doctor's office or on these tables, you can actually put fluid into the disc and it enlarges the disc. And now you have, when you come back, stand up, the disc gets squished and it bulges out the side. So be careful when you choose traction, especially if you're in active degenerative state where your discs are actively bulging. So they're bulging, and now you invert, and that puts more fluid into the disc, and then you stand back up again, and now the bulge goes out, and you wonder why. I think I said last time that I couldn't urinate. I remember getting off the traction table. I think it was a Cox traction table. I tried everything back in school, and all the guys would try to help me, and I remember thinking, I can't release my urine. And I said, I can't release my urine. He says, well, you're going to have to go to a doctor. One of the students said, you have to go. And I went to the guy who teaches chiropractic. I won't mention his name, but he taught low back in Palmer College. And I went to him, and he used a different take on the traction table where he would move it side to side and, not just pull it apart. And by the time I got through with that, I was no more good. The disc was, that night, I called him up and said, I'm in real bad trouble. And he said, well, you're going to have to go to the hospital. And this is back in 83. And I remember I called the ambulance, and they said, well, in the middle of the night here, it's going to be $160. And I said, if you wait for the morning, you can, it'll be like $60. So I sat there, I laid there on the couch all night long going, I can make it to the morning to save $100 or whatever it was to get to the cheaper ambulance ride. But we called the ambulance, and I went into the hospital. They gave at the time it was CAT scans, and they had this chymopapane. They wanted to inject chymopapane into my discs, and I think, now that I think back on it, that might have not have been a bad idea because papaya works good. That's why we take, we have this supplement we use called, Dr. Wong's Zymescence, because we're trying to put papaya or even animal version of pancreatic enzymes, either porcine from pigs or bovine from cows, and that's what's in these capsules from Dr. Wong, and if you can get those, that would help you to get a start on putting enzymes, because at 27 years of age, your genes turn off your enzymes from your own pancreas, so you're stuck with no enzymes at 27, which is about the time, that's the most time we have people come into our office. You look back on our records at 27 years of age, that are always coming in here at 27 years of age. And I used to think, oh my, what is going on? Well, that's the year that most of us have low back problems. And analyze and ask your friends, yeah, 27 is when I had the worst year, because that's when the pancreas, your own pancreas, which delivers these enzymes, which makes you young, that gene just turns off like a switch. So you take Dr. Wong Zymescence, and that's a real good enzyme. You can't get it on Amazon. No, I know that's a bummer. We have it at the office. If you need it, we can get it for you, whatever. But that's where you want to at least start. Put the enzymes in there and see if you can soften the discs and retract them back. And that's what we do in the adjustments also. We're trying to put the spine in a less stressful position so that you don't always use that part where you're breaking, which is another problem we have, which is if you're getting adjusted already, I hate to try to tell other doctors what to do, but you really don't want to crack, and I intimated to that last YouTube with that, you don't want to crack your own neck, because you're cracking the area that's worn out, and that's where the disc's rupturing. So please don't crack your own neck. In fact, the chiropractor usually tries to stabilize that area and work above and below. That's one of my secrets. I don't want to give up my secrets here, but I don't really tend to want to crack where the disc is showing ruptured on the MRI. You want to work above and below. That's my little trick, is working above and below where the herniated discs are showing, so that you can leave that section alone, get the area above and below to work, and you get better results. And that's the way I've taught the kids to work. I try to get them to stay away from cracking the area that is, but that's up to the doctor to do that. It's up to their prerogative to decide where they're going to crack, if they're going to try to relocate the disc or something like that. But my usual standard is to work above and below. It's one of my tricks, above and below. That's why I alluded last time, work on the atlas. And you're going to hear me say that over and over again through these, is I work on the atlas, because the atlas is where most of the turning of your head occurs. And if you want to go, that's 45 degrees. The atlas is 45 degrees. So it goes to about there. There's no disc at the atlas and axis. So you turn your head and you get to 46 degrees, and C3 kicks in, and C4, C5, C6, C7. But if your atlas is stuck, that's going to not turn, and then you're going to start to turn at C3, C4, C5, and then you're out. You're out of vertebrae. But you got to look over the shoulder to back out the garage. So you twist and turn, and that makes you straighten your neck. And I asked the doctor one time in a seminar he was teaching, and I said, "Sir, could it be that the straight neck is due to the atlas being locked, causing C5 to have to straighten in order for it to be able to be a turner? Because C5 shouldn't be a turner until 46 degrees, or way over here at 51 degrees. You get the idea? You want the atlas to do the first 45, 45 degrees to the right, 45 degrees to the left. That's all atlas. So now we're going to get to C3. That's going to be 46 degrees. C4, C5, C6, C7. And that's why it stays curved until you have to ask it to turn. So you look at the x-ray from the side and you say, oh, that straight neck is from looking down at the phone or looking at your computer. And years ago, we'd say, oh, you're looking down at your computer. So now I don't know if that's all of it. All of it is when the atlas gets locked, which people say to me, well, I don't hurt up there. Why are you working on my atlas? Well, that's where it's stuck. And if we can free up the atlas to turn, you can leave your lower neck in a curvature and just turn using the atlas, which has no disc. But from injuries and whiplashes and so forth, the atlas gets locked to the skull, and then you're straightening your neck to use the lower vertebrae. And that's why they're worn out, because you're using C5 way too early until the doctor gets the atlas unlocked. I have, Marty was the other day was saying, why does that hurt so bad up there? Well, if it's stuck, it doesn't flush its own lactic acid out of there. So the nociceptors, Nociceptors, the nociceptors don't they hurt up there because they're loaded with lactic acid. I know, I'm talking too much, but that's enough for today. I'll try to come back into vertical position. This just is working out so good to do my inversions and my talking to you at the same time. Thank you very much for the first video. Was pretty good. It got good reception, so maybe I'll keep this up. Take care.